Hello, friends. Welcome back. We left off last time in episode 141 with just 5 verses left to go in chapter 13, and we're going to do that today. As I said last time, this is among the most subtle of the Gita verses and chapters. Chapter 13, chapter 15, and earlier part of chapter 2 are the ones that are the most subtle of all the philosophy that's in the Gita. Lou, you okay?
Yeah, I'm okay. I've been thinking that I'm going to, as soon as we wrap up chapter 13 with this episode, I'm going to go back and just go through all of chapter 13 again.
Oh, nice.
Because first it was good and it was interesting, and secondly, I think people would benefit from a second go around.
Yeah, listen, it's like the deeper you go, the more you study it, the deeper you go. Each time you read it, each time you listen, you learn new facts, things that you thought you knew, and you say, wow, this is a whole new twist on it. So please, yes, it's a good idea for you, Lou. Good idea for everybody to do that. Just keep going over it again and again and again. So, chapter 13, verse 31 says, when he perceives the diversified existence of all beings as rooted in one, and spreading forth from that one alone, then he becomes Brahman. So it means you get to be self realized. When you realize, then you perceive that one Atman, one self, one God presents as many beings in different forms. So you can present as a cow, as a donkey, as a dog, as a human being, as a tree, but all of it comes from just one single life force that shows as so many else. It's like the sun, shining in the sun up in the space, and just coming down and glancing off, reflecting off millions of lakes and ponds and mirrors and solar panels, but yet there's only one sun, and you may look at it as being so many reflections, but it's just one sun. So
Right.
one Atman. A better example is that of dreams. One mind, one mind. You fall asleep and you have multiple dreams. Throughout your life, you have so many dreams, and you may be a skier in your dream, you may be a ballet dancer, you may be an athlete, you may be a beggar, a king. All of these different things all come from one mind. And when you stop dreaming, you wake up, you become that mind again. The dream and the dream world goes away. So that one Atman, one God presents as all of us human beings. And only those that start to tease out that all of us are one, whether it be a beautiful person, not beautiful person, rich, poor, all of us are just one. Only when you get to that, you start to become close to God. And he says, when you realize that, you become Brahman. So don't become confused. You are, because otherwise you forget who you really are. This is one thing that we've talked about again and again. Verse 32 says, being without beginning or without qualities or gunas, this supreme self, imperishable, although dwelling in the body, neither acts nor is tainted. He's saying here that the Atman dwells inside a being, and doesn't mean that it dwells as a column or a wisp of smoke, but in every cell of your body there's a piece of life, every cell. So you can't distinguish that the Atman lives in the heart or the brain or the mind or anywhere. It's in every cell of your body, and you have trillions of cells in your body. Every cell is basically life. So all over you are Atman. Dwelling inside that Atman, that dwelling inside that body, that Atman neither acts, so it doesn't act. You're the one who's acting.
Right.
It only allows you to act. Nor is that Atman tainted by your actions. You could do good actions or bad actions. Doesn't affect the Atman. Your karma is affected. And it is without beginning, without end, and without qualities. There's no rajas, no tamas, no sattva. There's no beginning, no birth, no death, no end. So imagine that you're looking at the ocean. When you look at the ocean, you see a tidal wave. You say, oh my goodness, look at that tidal wave. You see a little sweet little ripple. You see the sunset behind it. You see a small wave. You look at a big wave, a small wave, one bigger wave comes and engulfs the smaller wave, but they're all just waves. You can focus on the waves, or you can say all of these waves are just part of the ocean, and you see it as the ocean. The ocean is forever. The waves come and go. Similarly, the Atman is forever. We beings come and go. Without qualities, imperishable. So we talked about that. Verse 33 says, as all pervading space is not tainted due to its subtlety, so also the self, seated in the body everywhere, is also not tainted. Now, of the elements, whether they be space, air, fire, water, earth, space is the most subtle. And remember, subtle is always superior to gross. What does that mean? As an example, the gross body can be imprisoned with four walls around me, bars. I can be put in a cage, I can be put in a jail, and you can imprison my body. But my mind is subtle, and you cannot stop my mind from leaving the jail and going to say, oh, I was in Bermuda. I remember that. I close my eyes and I find myself mentally in Bermuda, and I'm enjoying myself. I'm having a good time. You cannot imprison the subtle. The subtle is always superior to the gross. So the subtle can be imprisoned. So similarly, space is more subtle than air or fire or earth or water, right? What does that mean? Because it is more subtle, air, for instance, let me back up. You know what space is? Space is the distance between two objects, for instance. Outside this atmosphere, all this atmosphere, we have oxygen, nitrogen, hydrogen, all of these things, carbon dioxide. But when you go beyond the atmosphere, there's nothing. There's no air between two planets. Air itself can have breeze, a gentle breeze, warm, or a cold wind, or air itself can have nice fragrance of lavender or horrible smell of some sewer plant near you. But that's the air. The air may be part of the space, but the space cannot be tainted. Air can be tainted, space cannot. So just like the space cannot be tainted by air or water or fire or earth, similarly, the self cannot be tainted. That's what he's basically talking about. It's immaculate, like space, is what he says in this. The air cannot affect, no matter what the air does. Sorry, I'm just looking at my notes. Verse 34, as the one sun illuminates the whole world, so does the kshetri, the lord of the field, illumine the whole kshetra, which is the field. As we said in our last episode, the Gita does not refer only to body and consciousness, because living beings all have different forms of matter collected together. So he tends to term it a field of matter, rather than a body. So he's saying the whole field, the kshetra, is known by the kshetri, which is Sanskrit for the knower of that field. And as the one sun illuminates the whole world, so the kshetri, the knower of the field, illumines the whole field or body. So in verse 32, if you remember, the self does not act, although it dwells in the body, is what it says. It allows the body, mind, and intellect to act, yet it is untainted. That was verse 32. Verse 33 said, it's immaculate like space. It does not get tainted by anything. Now this verse 34 says it's like the sun. The sun illuminates a trillion things. The sun is up in the above where you can see it. When it shines down on the earth, it falls on a river, it shines. Beautiful, clear water, it shines. You can see the reflection. It shines on a lake, it shines on solar panels, mirrors, beings, stone. The shinier that object is, the more it'll reflect it. But it shows up in millions of trillions of places, but the sun is only one. Similarly, he says, as the one sun illuminates the whole world, so the Atman, the self, God, illumines all beings on this earth. So without the self, the world would not exist. Similarly, without the mind, dreams would not exist. Without the Atman, the self, God, Brahman, this whole life circle would not exist. Last verse in chapter 13 says, they who with the eye of wisdom, capital I, capital W, they who with the eye of wisdom perceive thus the distinction between kshetra or field and kshetragnya or knower of the field, and the hibernation, the liberation of beings from Prakriti, matter, they go to the Supreme. So here what he's saying is those who recognize the liberation of beings from matter, they go to the Supreme because they're able to see with their eye of wisdom. They
Right.
perceive the distinction between the field, the body, and consciousness. The eye of wisdom refers to spiritual enlightenment. So we can all be wise, we can be physicians, lawyers, dentists, educated people, but you could be dumb as anything when it comes to spirituality. He says, when the eye of wisdom, which is the awareness of spirituality, when you see that, then you can go to the Supreme. You become one with the Supreme. The river becomes one with the ocean. So we have completed chapter 13, verses 1 through 35. Sorry I had to rush through that. My apologies. But as Lou said, go back, listen to all of chapter 13, listen to the earlier part of chapter 2. We are now about to go into chapter 14, which is talking about the gunas. Very, very interesting chapter. I like it a lot. I hope you will. It's not subtle philosophy like 13 or 15. It's sandwiched in the middle between the two of them. But you'll find that you learn a lot from listening to chapter 14. Lou, any comments? You were going to say something?
No, we can. Chapter 13 is lessons in teaching us the difference between matter and Atman, about allowing us mentally to separate the two, because matter engages our senses and the Atman doesn't. So this is why we have to put some work into perceiving the Atman, especially as separate from matter and our bodies and our mind and our intellect.
Right.
So it's a very important part of this, perhaps the most important part of this, understanding that the Atman exists separately from all this stuff, and it exists in all of us, and it's the same in all of us.
It is the same in all of us. Yes, it is the same in all beings. You know, we have to recognize that sometimes people say, well, I'm very kind. Many religious people say, I'm very kind to other human beings, but I'm looking forward to my beef steak tonight. So, you know,
Yeah.
it is very, very important. I mean, don't get me wrong, friends. Just a matter of being aware. We may not be aware of the fact that for our selfish reasons, we don't want to hurt any other beings. So
I,
that's all I'd say about it.
I think it's important for Westerners, those of us raised in Western religion, to understand the concept too that the Atman does not guide our actions. It doesn't punish our actions. It doesn't encourage our actions. It just provides what we need to do, what we are going to do, because we're taught in Western religion that that God pushes us towards some things, punishes us for other things, is very involved and very emotionally involved in what we do and what we don't do. God gets angry if we do something wrong. He's happy if we do something good. That's a concept we grew up with, so that's going to be different for us. So it's something we need to understand.
Lou, it is not just for the Western people. You'd be surprised. Almost all Indians go to the temple to do exactly the same thing. They go to the temple with gold in their hands and money and fruits and all kinds of things to shower in the temple to what they consider as God, and saying, please, God, don't punish me for this.
Right.
Let my family be okay. It's the same exact thing, bargaining, bartering, pleading with God, saying, I will give you this. God doesn't need or benefit from fruits or vegetables or money or
Right.
gold.
Yeah.
So it's the same exact thing. You'd be
Yeah.
surprised how much money there is in temples in India.
God is not
And
angry at some people and happy with others. It's
yeah,
not the way it works.
God doesn't bless, doesn't curse, doesn't, punish you. Your karmas do that. That's the important thing to keep in mind, that your karma, what you do, what seed you sow, so shall you reap. So you do bad, you will have the same done to you. You do good, you will have the same done to you.
We're about to,
Unless, by the way, people have said to me, well, what happens when you're a surgeon and the patient dies? Are you going to get killed? No, because the intention matters.
right.
There's a sect of Hinduism known as Jains. Jains walk around with a mask over their nose and their mouth because they don't want to breathe in and kill germs as they're breathing. So they are very particular to say, look, we don't want to do that. And
Yep.
so when they walk very timidly, very gingerly, because they don't want to step on any insect.
Right.
But you cannot go through life like that. You don't know what you're stepping on. So you do it without intention. Karma doesn't hold you responsible. You have good intention to save somebody by being a surgeon. That karma is not, and the patient dies. You didn't do it on purpose. You didn't intend to do it. You don't get punished for that.
We are about to enter chapter 14. If you're watching on Facebook, you can message us here either in comments on the episodes or in direct message. That's the way to get in touch with us. You can also listen to audio only on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, about 5 or 6 other outlets. Just search for us. You'll find us, but you can message us on Gita's Memoirs Psychiatrist on Facebook. So we look forward to hearing from you. And I look forward to starting chapter 14 in the next episode.
Thank you, Lou. Thank you all for listening, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.